my name is Alexandria Strotter, and I'm going to be doing my one-page design reflection video. Now, the language that I chose to pick was CSS, and I chose to pick that because of the different, things that you can do with CSS and the way that you can change the page view just from simply inputting certain items, selecting different things, assigning it different values. And I think it's pretty cool just that to see these different things that are created from just one HTML file through the power of CSS. Now to begin, start with my plan. Now this is my my kind of outline, my original ideas that I had thought of for my site. And you will see that in the end, I actually didn't include some of the things, and I will explain that later on. But just to begin with, let's go over my site intent was that I had a site that allowed the user to understand the basics of CSS and why it's a vital part of any website. My site was going to be called Classy, and I'll explain that also later on. The user goals is going to be that they were able to understand the basic uses of CSS, and they would have, the what CSS is and why CSS should be used to kind of help them learn more about the language. I wanted my site to have navigation that allowed the user to easily jump from section to section, and also title sections so that the user, if they were just scrolling through the page, would know what section they're in. Some of the components that I had wanted to include were the navigation, a header that allowed the user to know what language was going to be discussed, and a primary call to action for the user to learn more. The basic information section was going to explain, what CSS is and why you should use it. And I wanted to include a logo that would just be a book with letters, CSS written on it. And I wanted that to be, I picked Classy because it's kind of a play on both educational class as well as the literal definition of classy, which is stylish and sophisticated. Basically, that is what CSS is. It's a stylish and sophisticated way to make your web page. You can style it, and you can keep it all organized and together in one location. Also, some of the content that I wanted to include was I wanted 2 screenshots of a page, one without CSS and one as with CSS, kind of to show the importance of CSS. I also wanted to include links to pages that showcase CSS abilities in the Y section. And my text was going to be the basic explanation of what CSS is and why people use CSS and some of the basic examples. Now, my user persona I created was Daniela, who is 17, and she's a student in high school. Now, the reason Daniela is on my site is because she is in high school and she's taking a basic HTML type class. She hasn't learned any design skills or JavaScript, none of that. She's heard of them, but she doesn't really know much to what it is. Now, her choir class needs a website, and she wants to kind of help build it in order to save some money. Now, the reason she's going onto the site is kind of to learn what CSS is and how to use it to create this website. Basically, what she wants to do is have the ability to test, her code, have snippets of the code that she can copy and paste if she needs help, and just to have enough information on the page just to get the website started. So when she leaves, I want her to be able to say, I was able to get a basic understanding, which helped me with the start of the creation of my website. So that's the user persona that I was kind of building for. And the reason I picked a high school student is because I like to think of now we have more younger people getting into the coding game, shall we say. If you think about it, there's intro to computer science, and there's a lot of different classes that they offer in high school now. And you see a lot of young people actually getting more into it, especially since a lot of them spend most of their time on the computer anyway. So I think it's, the right age group of people who are kind of looking to see what CSS is. I mean, you have many different ages, but this is just kind of the general audience that I was trying to call to was people new to the language. They have some kind of background, maybe none, but they're still able to get a basic understanding of what needs to be done. So my first wireframe, well, not wireframe, my low fidelity wireframe is this one right here. This is my sketch of my Mobile 1. And here, I have the logo, I have the condensed menu with the page as the header, the name of the page is the header. And here would be my call to action. And this would kind of be my what CSS is, why use CSS, and examples of CSS. For my Mobile 2, you can see here the difference. Here I just kind of played around with where the menu and logo would go. Here I have CSS, what is CSS, why use it, examples, and my call to action on this page was a newsletter. Just from, playing around with it, I thought, would I want my user to learn more? Do I want them to sign up for a newsletter? And I think kind of signing up for a newsletter would be good. I want them to be able to get, new emails that let you know, hey, we have this new blog out about how to do this, or hey, check this out, or, hey, this is a free style sheet of the day type thing. So I want my users to, interact and be able to get lots of information regarding CSS. So I want them to sign up for a newsletter. So I still kind of played around with both. I made one for the Learn More button and one for the newsletter. Moving on to my desktop for my first attempt. There you go. I wanted the logo, with the nav links, a hero image with the, read more. That's my call to action. What is CSS? Why use CSS? And originally I was going to include 3 images or just 3 main points and the examples down here with the output. And for my second desktop, I was going to have the same thing here, CSS, what is and why. And I wanted these to be 2 columns right next to each other. In the middle, I would put the call to action for a newsletter, and then I would put the examples and their outputs beneath it. So those were my original ideas of kind of where I wanted everything to be placed out. Moving on to the prototype stage. Here I'll open up my Mobile 1. And just to kind of remind you of what it looked like at first, you see here I have the name of the site. Then I kind of have like a little bit of information in my call to action, my Learn More. Originally, I was going to do the circles, but just trying to fit it out, I could see that the sizing wasn't going to work. Either the text was going to be too small or the circle was going to be too big. And I figured I would just stick with the rounded rectangles. So it doesn't give it that sharp look, but it's still not, it still fits well with the content. And then here you have the examples and the examples here and another call to action, just so, maybe the user's reading this and they're like, no, let me just keep seeing what there is. And then once they read through all this, they're like, okay, you know what, I want to learn more. And so I just want to include that call to action again. And then let's move on to the second. I'll go ahead and open that mobile prototype. Now here, I have the condensed menu, the logo, and I figured that using the Word logo instead of actually using the image logo would be better on mobile, just because I didn't want it to look too squished or too hard to read. So I just used the text instead. And when you zoom up to 100%, it looks a little bit better than this right now. And then here, I have my newsletter call to action, and same like before. I want it to be up front, just maybe somebody immediately decides to sign up. But maybe they don't, so, they can read through our sections, and then they have the ability to sign up for the newsletter again before they kind of finish the site. Moving on to my desktop. I just kind of made the information go through the whole page, and here you can see an example of the logo in both pages. And now here I included the hero image on this page instead with the newsletter sign up, as well as a shaded section down here at the bottom before coming to the footer. And then, here, same thing, just kind of everything is just its own little thing. More white space than anything, not a lot of use of color. Oh, one of the other things, one of my struggles, I can say, was originally I had wanted to put images, like I spoke earlier, I wanted to put the image of a page without CSS and a page with CSS to kind of show the importance. But specifically on this one, when I was trying to fit the images, it wasn't coming out the way that I wanted to. I could either squish it up here and then it looks too small, or I can extend it and then there's a giant white space and empty gap between these two elements, and I wasn't quite sure what to fill it with. And same here. I mean, I could have put one picture here, but then it just would have been, where do I put the second picture, and do I squeeze these two pictures together? I just felt like it, for the layout that I had chosen, it wasn't going to work properly. So I had just decided to not include that in my wireframes. I feel like I could have taken the time out to kind of figure out how to play with the style, maybe kind of make the text wrap around it better, or try and find maybe a different image to use, or split the image differently just in a way to show the page. But I think I could have definitely done that to improve, instead of just removing it completely, looking back. Now, choosing between having the call to action of learn more and the newsletter, I decided when I would go into my refine and color composite stage, I decided to choose the newsletter. I thought it would be best. I want my users to be able to sign up, and I want them to kind of get more information of what's going on in the site and new CSS techniques that they can learn. And I chose cool colors kind of to stay all in the purple and blue kind of feel. I used image of an actual CSS style sheet that I had been working on, and I think it fits well with the colors I have on the page. Here you go. You have your hero image, which is the actual code. So here the user gets to see it in action and see what CSS is, kind of how it's used. And here's your call to action. Immediately sign up, colored. And you have your sections. And I also decided for the coding, I would color code, each section so the user can easily see, okay, that's the selector, that's the property, and that's the value. And here are the outputs of what they are. And then once again, here they have the ability to sign up for the newsletter. And I think the gradient used gives it that nice kind of pop out shape. And I think that's really why I went with it the way I did, instead of just putting flat colors. I know I did the sections, I did do flat colors, but I felt it just looked better that way. And just for these bigger areas here, to include that kind of gradient, darker shade at the bottom, light shade at the top, or light tint at the top. So that was kind of my whole take. And here is the mobile version of that site. And this one's just, more simplistic, use of a lot of white space. Instead of using the hero image and trying to squish that down onto the screen, here they just have the text, what CSS is, why they should use it, and again, the examples. And of course, once again, hey, sign up for our newsletter with your call to action. And that was my one-page project.